I've been a urologist for over 12 years, and in that time, I have sat across from thousands of men over 50 who came into my office with the same look on their face, a mix of confusion, frustration, and quiet shame. They weren't sick in the traditional sense. Their blood pressure was manageable, their cholesterol was passable. But something had changed in the bedroom, something they didn't know how to explain to their doctor, and something they definitely hadn't told their partner the full truth about. Their erections weren't lasting, or they weren't arriving when called, or they arrived but faded, quickly, without warning, without explanation. And the question underneath all of it, the one they were too embarrassed to ask directly, was this: why do some men my age seem completely unaffected? Why do some men over 60 maintain strong, sustained erections while others are struggling to get through 2 minutes? What is the actual difference? Today, I'm going to answer that question with complete clinical honesty. And I'm going to tell you that the difference is not age, it is not luck, it is not genetics in most cases. It is a specific, identifiable set of biological variables, and every single one of them is modifiable, meaning you can change them, starting this week. And stay with me, because number 5 on this list is the one that most men have never heard connected to erectile function before. It's not what you think, and it may be the single most important shift you can make. So don't leave before we get there. I'm Dr. Amanda Brooks, a board-certified urologist with over 12 years of experience helping men over 60 reclaim their vitality, strength, and confidence. I've worked with thousands of men who thought their best days were behind them. What I share today is grounded in clinical evidence and real patient outcomes. My job is not to make you feel better with vague reassurances. My job is to give you specific, actionable, honest information, the kind you deserve and rarely get in a standard appointment. Before we go any further, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button right now and drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from. Whether you're in the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, or anywhere else in the world, I want to know. It costs you 2 seconds and it helps this information reach the men who need it most. All right, let's get into it. Here's what I need you to understand before we go through the specific variables. Erectile function is, at its most fundamental level, a cardiovascular event. It requires a precise sequence. The brain sends a signal, nitric oxide is released, smooth muscle in the penile arteries relaxes, blood floods into the erectile chambers, and pressure builds until firmness is achieved and sustained. Every step of that sequence depends on the health of your vascular system. This means that erectile quality is one of the most sensitive early warning systems your body has for cardiovascular health. Studies show that erectile dysfunction can precede a cardiac event by 3 to 5 years in men who have no other obvious symptoms. Your erection is not just about your sex life. It is a real-time report on the state of your arteries. Now, here are 3 problems that silently erode this system. Problems most men have, but most men don't connect to what's happening below the belt. Problem 1, endothelial dysfunction. The endothelium is the thin inner lining of every blood vessel in your body. It is responsible for producing nitric oxide, the chemical signal that tells your penile arteries to open and allow blood in. After 50, endothelial function naturally declines. But the men who maintain strong erectile function have endothelial health that is measurably better than men who don't. And endothelial health is directly shaped by lifestyle inputs, not just age. Problem 2, testosterone decline. Not just total testosterone, free testosterone, the testosterone that is actually bioavailable to your tissues. After 50, a protein called sex hormone binding globulin increases, binding more testosterone and leaving less free in circulation. Free testosterone directly supports libido, penile sensitivity, and the neurological arousal signals that initiate the erection process. Men with low free testosterone have a diminished neurological drive before the vascular system even gets involved. Problem 3, pelvic floor dysfunction. Almost no one talks about this in the context of erectile function, but it is one of the most underdiagnosed contributors to premature detumescence, meaning erections that fade too quickly. The bulbocavernosus and ischiocavernosus muscles of the pelvic floor play a direct role in maintaining intracorporal pressure during erection. In men over 60, these muscles are often chronically weakened or chronically over-tightened. Both conditions impair erection quality and duration in ways that have nothing to do with hormones or arteries. So when we ask why some men over 60 sustain strong erections and others don't, we are really asking about the state of three interconnected systems: the vascular system, the hormonal system, and the pelvic neuromuscular system. Now let me walk you through the 7 specific differences, the variables that separate the men who maintain function from the men who lose it. Number 1, nitric oxide production, the master switch of erectile function. Biologically, nitric oxide is produced in the endothelial cells that line your penile arteries. It is the signal that triggers smooth muscle relaxation and the subsequent engorgement of the erectile chambers. Men who maintain strong erections after 60 have nitric oxide production that is measurably and consistently higher than men who don't. And the primary drivers of nitric oxide production are not medications. They are inputs your body receives every day. Dietary nitrates from foods like beets, leafy greens, and arugula are converted through the nitrite-nitric oxide pathway into bioavailable nitric oxide. Physical exercise, specifically cardiovascular exercise, is the most powerful natural stimulus for endothelial nitric oxide synthase, the enzyme that produces nitric oxide. And adequate sleep is essential for the overnight endothelial repair that keeps this enzyme functioning. Emotionally, this reframe is significant. When men understand that erectile strength is not just something that happens to them, it is something their body produces in direct response to what they do and consume, the helplessness dissolves. You are not a passive recipient of aging. You are an active participant in the biochemistry of your own function. Practically, add 1 serving of beetroot to your diet 4 to 5 times per week. Beet juice, roasted beets, or a standardized beetroot extract supplement. Do 30 minutes of brisk cardiovascular exercise at least 4 days per week. Walking counts. And protect your sleep. 7 to 8 hours of actual sleep, not just time in bed. These 3 inputs directly support nitric oxide production and are the foundation of everything else we're going to discuss. Number 2, free testosterone, not total testosterone, free testosterone. Biologically, when most men get a testosterone blood test, they see their total testosterone number and assume that's the whole picture. It isn't. Total testosterone measures everything in circulation, but a large proportion of that testosterone is bound to proteins, particularly sex hormone-binding globulin, and is biologically inactive. Free testosterone is the fraction that your tissues can actually use. After 50, SHBG increases significantly, meaning more of your testosterone gets bound and rendered unavailable. A man can have a total testosterone reading that looks acceptable on paper, while his free testosterone is critically low. And it is free testosterone that governs libido, penile sensitivity, and the neurological arousal signals that launch the erection sequence. Emotionally, men who have been told your testosterone is fine and are still experiencing erectile difficulties often carry an additional layer of confusion and self-blame because the medical system told them nothing was wrong. Understanding that total testosterone and free testosterone are different measurements, and that the second one is the relevant one, gives them the right question to ask their doctor. And having the right question is the beginning of getting the right answer. Practically, ask your physician to run a comprehensive hormonal panel that includes free testosterone and SHBG, not just total testosterone. Additionally, several lifestyle inputs naturally lower SHBG and increase free testosterone. Regular resistance training, optimizing vitamin D3 levels, at least 2,000 to 4,000 IU daily, reducing alcohol intake, managing body weight, particularly around the abdomen, and adequate zinc from dietary sources or supplementation at 15 to 30 milligrams daily. Thomas, 64, retired firefighter, strong, active man. He came to me genuinely baffled. His primary care doctor had checked his testosterone, reported it was in the normal range, and he was still experiencing significant erectile difficulties. When I ran a full hormonal panel, his free testosterone was in the bottom 15% for his age group, despite acceptable total levels. His SHBG was elevated. We addressed it with resistance training, vitamin D optimization, and zinc. 6 weeks later, he called my office and said, "I don't know what the number is now, but whatever changed, it's working. The response is back." That's what the right test followed by the right action looks like. Number 3, pelvic floor muscle strength and coordination. Biologically, the pelvic floor muscles, specifically the bulbocavernosus and ischiocavernosus, function like a clamp around the base of the penis during erection. They compress the veins that drain blood out of the erectile chambers, maintaining the pressure that creates and sustains firmness. When these muscles are weakened, blood drains out too quickly. The erection arrives but doesn't hold. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. A randomized controlled trial published in BJU International found that pelvic floor exercises restored normal erectile function in 40% of men with erectile dysfunction and significantly improved function in another 35% without any medication. Emotionally, this finding is one of the most practically empowering things I share with my patients. The idea that an exercise, a free, private, side effect-free exercise you can do anywhere, can produce results comparable to pharmaceutical intervention is something most men have never heard. When they try it and feel the results, there is a quality of quiet pride in it. They did this, not a pill, them. Practically, the pelvic floor exercise protocol is this. Identify the muscles you would use to stop urination midstream. Contract those muscles for 3 seconds, then fully release for 3 seconds. That is 1 repetition. Do 3 sets of 10 repetitions twice daily. Most men begin to notice measurable improvements in erection firmness and duration within 4 to 6 weeks of consistent daily practice. Consistency matters far more than intensity here. Marcus, 61, retired teacher. He'd been relying on phosphodiesterase inhibitors, the class of drugs that includes commonly known erectile medications, for 3 years and was unhappy with the dependence and the side effects. He came to me asking if there was anything else. I introduced him to the pelvic floor protocol. He was skeptical. 8 weeks later, he came back and told me, "I stopped taking the medication at week 5. I didn't need it. My wife thinks I went to a different doctor." Number 4, sleep quality. Specifically slow-wave sleep and its relationship to testosterone and nocturnal erections. Biologically, most men over 60 are aware that testosterone is produced during sleep. What fewer men know is that this production is concentrated specifically in slow-wave sleep, the deepest stages of the sleep cycle. And nocturnal erections, the 3 to 5 erections that healthy men experience during each night's sleep, are not random occurrences. They are vascular exercise events. The erectile tissue requires regular engorgement during the night to maintain its oxygenation, cellular health, and elasticity. Men who do not experience sufficient nocturnal erections, typically because their slow-wave sleep is fragmented or insufficient, experience progressive penile tissue hypoxia. Over time, this contributes to fibrosis, a stiffening of the very tissue that needs to be flexible. The organ loses its capacity to fully engorge, and daytime erectile quality declines as a direct result. Emotionally, this is one of the more confronting things I tell my patients, because it means that erectile decline during waking hours can be the accumulated result of years of poor sleep quality happening invisibly in the dark. Men rarely connect the two, but once they do, sleep becomes something different. It stops being passive rest and starts being active maintenance. That shift in perspective is genuinely motivating. Practically, 7 to 8 hours of genuine sleep in a cool, dark room is the baseline. But for men over 60, sleep architecture is just as important as sleep duration. Avoid alcohol within 3 hours of bedtime. Alcohol dramatically suppresses slow-wave sleep, even if it makes you fall asleep faster. Eliminate caffeine after noon. Keep your bedroom between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. And consider discussing sleep apnea screening with your doctor if you snore. Sleep apnea is one of the most underdiagnosed drivers of both low testosterone and erectile dysfunction in men over 50. Number 5, and this is the one most men have never heard connected to erectile function: chronic loneliness and social disconnection, and the specific neurochemical deficit they create. Biologically, here is what the research shows. Chronic loneliness, not temporary aloneness, but persistent social disconnection, elevates cortisol and activates the body's threat response systems on a continuous basis. Elevated cortisol directly suppresses testosterone production. It constricts blood vessels. It dysregulates the autonomic nervous system in ways that impair the parasympathetic signaling that is essential for erection initiation. An erection requires the body to be in a parasympathetic state, a state of calm, safety, and connection. Chronic loneliness keeps the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight system, on a low but persistent background activation. And sympathetic activation is the biological opposite of erectile readiness. Additionally, oxytocin, the neurochemical of bonding and connection, plays a direct role in sexual arousal and erectile response. Men in close, connected relationships with consistent physical intimacy, even non-sexual physical affection like touch, closeness, and warmth, have measurably higher oxytocin tone than isolated men. And oxytocin directly potentiates the nitric oxide pathway. Connection and vascular health are not separate systems. They are the same system expressed in different language. Emotionally, I want to handle this one with the care it deserves. Many men over 60 are lonely. They don't identify with that word. They are not sitting alone weeping. They are functional, capable men. But they haven't been touched warmly in months. They haven't laughed deeply with a close friend in longer than they can remember. The emotional intimacy in their primary relationship has contracted over years. And this quiet disconnection has a biochemistry, a measurable chemical fingerprint that shows up in their testosterone levels, their cortisol patterns, and yes, their erectile function. Practically, this is not a pharmaceutical problem. It is a relational one. If you are in a relationship, invest in emotional intimacy as deliberately as you invest in physical health. Non-sexual physical affection, holding hands, sitting close, touching your partner's face, stimulates oxytocin in ways that directly support the neurochemical environment for sexual function. If you are not in a relationship, prioritizing genuine social connection, regular time with friends, community involvement, any form of consistent, warm human contact is not soft advice. It is a vascular and hormonal intervention. Number 6, body composition, specifically visceral fat and its hormonal consequences. Biologically, visceral fat, the fat stored around the abdominal organs, is not passive storage tissue. It is metabolically active. It secretes estrogen, it expresses the aromatase enzyme that converts testosterone into estrogen, and it produces inflammatory cytokines that damage the endothelium of blood vessels throughout the body, including in the penis. Men with significant visceral fat are operating with a hormonal environment that actively suppresses testosterone, elevates estrogen, and continuously inflames the very vascular architecture that erectile function depends on. Every centimeter of excess waist circumference above 37 inches in a man over 60 is associated with measurable, progressive erosion of erectile capability. Emotionally, I want to be careful here because body image is a sensitive area, and shame is not a productive clinical tool. The point is not that carrying extra weight makes you a less valuable man. The point is that visceral fat is a specific, addressable biochemical condition, and addressing it produces specific, measurable hormonal and vascular improvements. This is not about appearance. It is about your internal chemistry. Practically, the most effective approach for visceral fat specifically is the combination of resistance training and dietary sugar reduction. Resistance training, even light weightlifting or body weight exercises 3 times per week, is more effective than aerobic exercise alone for visceral fat reduction. Reducing added sugars and refined carbohydrates reduces the chronically elevated insulin response that drives visceral fat accumulation. You do not need to achieve a particular weight or appearance. A 10% reduction in waist circumference produces measurable hormonal and vascular improvements within 8 to 12 weeks. Ronald, 67, retired contractor. He came to me 2 years after his wife had gently told him that intimacy had become infrequent and she missed him. He'd gained approximately 40 pounds since retirement. His free testosterone was low, his estrogen was elevated, the direct consequence of visceral fat-driven aromatization. We worked on a resistance training protocol 3 times per week and a sugar reduction approach. 12 weeks later, his hormonal panel had shifted meaningfully. He told me, "My wife and I had a conversation about 2 months in. She said she could see me coming back. I didn't realize how far away I'd drifted." Number 7, medication awareness, the silent libido and erectile disruptors. Biologically, this final variable is the one that is most immediately actionable because it requires no lifestyle change, just information. A significant number of commonly prescribed medications have direct negative effects on erectile function, libido, or both. The list includes certain beta blockers prescribed for blood pressure and cardiac conditions, thiazide diuretics, many antidepressants, particularly SSRIs and SNRIs, H2 receptor blockers like cimetidine used for acid reflux, certain cholesterol-lowering medications, and almost all hormonal therapies. These medications do not cause erectile dysfunction in every man who takes them, but in men who are already on the edge of the vascular and hormonal thresholds we've been discussing, they can be the variable that tips the balance. Emotionally, this one carries a specific frustration. The medication that is managing one health problem is silently creating another. Many men have been on blood pressure medication for 20 years and have never once been told that it may be affecting their sexual function. They assumed the decline was just aging. Having a name for it and knowing there are often alternatives changes the conversation. Practically, do not stop any medication without speaking to your prescribing physician, but do have the conversation. Specifically ask, could any of my current medications be affecting my erectile function or libido? In many cases, switching to a different drug class within the same therapeutic category eliminates the sexual side effects entirely. For example, certain calcium channel blockers for blood pressure have significantly less erectile impact than certain beta blockers. Your doctor cannot give you a better option if they don't know the current option is causing a problem. Gentlemen, here is your simple action plan. Step 1. Support nitric oxide production starting this week. Beets or beet extract 4 to 5 times per week. 30 minutes of cardiovascular exercise 4 days a week. 7 to 8 hours of real sleep every night. Step 2. Get the right blood tests. Ask your doctor for free testosterone and SHBG, not just total testosterone. Add vitamin D3 if your levels are below optimal. Assess for sleep apnea if you snore. Step 3. Start pelvic floor exercises today. 3 seconds contract, 3 seconds release, 3 sets of 10, twice daily. Mark it in your calendar. Do it every day for 6 weeks and evaluate. Step 4. Reduce visceral fat with resistance training 3 times a week and a meaningful reduction in added sugars and refined carbohydrates. Not perfection. Progress. 30 days of consistent effort produces measurable results. Step 5. Review your medications with your prescribing physician. Ask the question directly. Bring this up at your next appointment. Step 6. Invest in your relational and social life as deliberately as you invest in your physical health. Emotional intimacy and warm human connection are not soft recommendations. They are vascular and hormonal medicine. 6 steps. All of them free or low cost, all of them evidence-based, and all of them within your control. Begin this week. Before I let you go, I want to say something that I mean with complete sincerity. If you have been dealing with erectile difficulties and carrying the shame of it quietly, if you've been avoiding the conversation with your doctor, avoiding intimacy with your partner, avoiding looking at the problem directly, I want you to hear this. You are not broken. Your body has not given up on you. It is responding to inputs. Change the inputs and the outputs change. I have watched this happen hundreds of times in my practice, in men in their 60s, their 70s, their 80s. The difference between the men who maintain strong function and the men who lose it is not luck or genetics in most cases. It is information and action. You now have the information. The action is yours. It is never too late to begin, and you have already begun by being here. If this video gave you something real today, a clearer understanding, a specific step you're going to take, a conversation you're going to have, please give it a like. It helps this information reach the men who are searching for it right now. Leave a comment below and tell me, which of these 7 variables do you think is most relevant to your situation right now? I read every comment and I genuinely want to know. Share this with a man over 50 in your life, a friend, a brother, someone you know is dealing with this quietly. You might be the reason he finally gets the answer he needed. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I share new, evidence-based men's health content every single week. Hit the bell so you never miss it. I'm Dr. Amanda Brooks, reminding you that after 50, vitality isn't lost. It's waiting to be awakened. Take care of yourself, gentlemen, and I'll see you in the next one.